Dr. Shabir, welcome to Let the Quran Speak.
Pleasure to be on.
We're continuing our series on misunderstood Quranic verses. The verse we're dealing with is from chapter 8, verse 5, and it goes like this. Remember how thy Lord brought thee forth from thy home in truth, while a group of the believers were averse, disputing with thee concerning the truth after it had become clear, as though they were being driven to death as they looked on. And remember when God promised you that one of the two companies was to be yours, and you wished that the unarmed one would be yours. But God desires to verify the truth through his words, and to cut off the last remnant of the disbelievers. I mentioned that it was chapter 8, verse 5, but I meant verse 5 to 7, Dr. Shabir.
Yeah, the three verses need to be taken together to get the whole picture. So verse number 5 basically says, كَمَا أَخْرَجَ رَبُّكَ مِنْ بَيْتِكَ بِالْحَقِّ وَإِنَّ فَرِيقًا مِنَ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ الْكَارِهُونَ. When God took you out of your home, so God is ostensibly addressing the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, and saying, when God took you out from your home for the sake of truth, while some of the believers were averse to that. يجادلونك. They're arguing with you. يجادلونك في الحق بعد ما تبين. They're arguing with you concerning like what is right after it has become plain. And the problem seems to be that they feel that they are يساقون إلى الموت وهم كارهون. They are being driven to death while they're looking on, like they're facing death here.
Yes.
And then the next verse, verse number 7, says, when God promises you that that you will have one of the two parties, and you wish that you wish to have the one without this thing, but God, on the other hand, wished to verify the truth with his words and the truth of his words and cut off the power of the enemy. So what is happening in these verses?
Yes,
so
it's not very clear.
Yeah, it's referring to some occasion. And the Muslim commentators on this passage bring into play here a story which has become very common. And that has led to aspersions being cast on the character of our Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. So that needs to be corrected. It's a major misunderstanding. So the story they come up with is that the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, had left his town, Medina, with a group of his fighters to go and attack a Meccan caravan. Now, the background story is that the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, had left his hometown in Mecca. He had migrated to Medina to live in peace, but there his companions who migrated along with him had left their property behind in Mecca. They were penniless in Medina. They needed a means of sustaining themselves. One way would be to attack the caravans that are coming from Syria, the Meccan caravans, because these were their enemies, the Meccans, who drove them out and were persecuting them and so on for so many years. And now it's time for payback, so that the Muslims would feel justified in attacking the caravan, taking the loot from the caravan, and say, now, tit for tat, right? And so the Prophet, peace be upon him, went out with this intention, according to the story. Later on, I'll show reasons for not accepting this story, but this is the story for now. While he was out to attack the caravan, Abu Sufyan, leading the caravan, came to realize this, and he sent word to Mecca for reinforcements. So the Meccans gathered together an army of thousands strong to face the Muslims, who were only about 313 in number. They marched upwards towards Medina to confront the Muslims and to save their caravan. In the meantime, the caravan slipped away, but before they could, the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, knowing of the advancing Meccan army, had to make a decision. What are we going to do now? Do we go back to our city and forget about caravan, or do we proceed, knowing that the army is coming? So he's asking his companions, and his companions are giving various responses, and mostly it's positive. And then they decide to proceed. But nonetheless, the caravan slips away, and now they have to face the Meccan army. So according to the Muslim story, the Prophet, peace be upon him, fell into this battle with the Meccan army, not by his own planning. He was just simply planning to attack the caravan. Now you can see how this can lead to aspersions being cast on his character. And in fact, even if the Muslim writers did not foresee this, and if we were there, probably might not have foreseen it, because all of this interpretation and the story about it, were coined in a milieu in which all of this seems natural, right? This is the macho thing to do, go and attack their caravan. But the verse of the Quran that we're just dealing with, the 3 verses together, show that this interpretation is incorrect.
So what do you mean? That there's no caravan, or?
Well, first of all, there's no mention of caravan directly. Okay. But let's say we can take the mention of the party that is without the sting. That might be a reference to the caravan, right? It's a roundabout reference, but let's say that. Let's give that. Mm-hmm. But Allamah Shibli Nomani is a biographer of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. He wrote the book Siratun Nabi. He died in the year 1914, so we're looking at more than 100 years ago. He already had the great insight that he wrote about in his life of the Prophet, peace be upon him. He said that when we look at the verse, we see that while the story shows that the Prophet, peace be upon him, had left home with the intention of attacking the caravan, and only while he was out in the field did he get news of the advancing Meccan army, and then he consulted his companions, in which case they could have a chance to argue with him if they wanted. The verse of the Quran that we just recited shows that they were arguing with him before they left Medina. So because the verse says, كَمَا أَخْرَجَكَ رَبُّكَ مِنْ بَيْتِكَ بِالْحَقِّ وَإِنَّ فَرِيقًا مِنَ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ كَارِهُونَ يُجَادِلُونَكَ. While you were leaving home, the believers, at least a group among them, were quarreling with you, were arguing with you, and they didn't want this. And they felt that they were being driven to death. The only reason they would feel that they're being driven to death is if they know that they're going out to face the Meccan army. Because if they were going to attack the caravan, according to the scenario envisioned in the story, that would have been easy peasy. They just go attack the caravan, loot it, bring back the goods. That would have been a cakewalk. But to face the Meccan army, this is where they might feel that they're facing death, because they're only 313. They're going to face an army that's 3 times their number, and an army that is well equipped for battle. Even if we think about the geography of the whole thing, it doesn't make sense that the Prophet, peace be upon him, was going to attack the caravan, because the Meccans had their alliances with tribes south of Medina, and the caravan is coming from North Medina, from Syria in the north. So if they wanted to attack the caravan, they should advance towards the north, but they were advancing south towards Badr, where the battle took place. That is going towards meeting the Meccan army, which is coming from the south. Moreover, to say that the Prophet, peace be upon him, went out to attack the caravan, then he, Abu Sufyan sent news, and then the army is advancing from Mecca. Mecca is like 400 kilometers away. Badr is only 150 kilometers away. So, for the Meccan army to come and advance to that point, given the time frame, like who's going to reach who first? Where are they going to meet up? How are they going to come and defend the caravan? It doesn't make sense. With all of these points in mind, it is clear that the story that the Prophet, peace be upon him, was out to attack the caravan, this is a false story. The truth of the matter must be that, or even if you wanted to, take some parts of the story and give some credence to it, you can say that Abu Sufyan, fearing for, or the Meccans in general, fearing for their caravan, started advancing with their army to go and attack the Muslims, to get rid of any possible threat to this or future caravans. The Prophet, peace be upon him, knowing of their advance, went out with his army to go and face them, though his army was lesser in number, but it was a do or die situation, because if you let them come towards your city, then they would enter the city, plunder and pillage, rape and kill, and the city would be devastated. So you had to go with your fighting men to keep the women and children safe. You go and you meet the fighting men in battle, in this case in the Battle of Badr. That makes better sense than to say that the Prophet, peace be upon him, was out to attack a caravan.
Dr. Shabir, is there any other scholar who has the same view as you? I know you mentioned Allamah Shibli Nomani. Is there anybody else?
Among Muslim scholars, scholars, I didn't read too much about this, but it's interesting that some non-Muslim scholars have picked up upon this.
Okay.
Namely, as an example, Lloyd Bridgen. There's a book entitled War and Peace in the World's Religions, edited by Loikel Smith. In there, there's the article about Islam's view on war and peace is written by Lloyd Bridgen. Lloyd Bridgen makes explicit mention of Allamah Shibli Nomani, summarizing some of his views in general, not about this incident in particular, but his general approach to this subject, and he sees that to be a reasonable approach. And it is one that I would recommend that we Muslims gravitate towards.
Thank you for sharing, Dr. Shabir.
You're welcome.
Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to Muslim Media Hub, the new home of Let the Quran Speak.
Here we spread positivity and good. We help people experience the beauty of Islam and help them appreciate and understand Muslims.
This beautiful building we purchased at cost $2.3 million.
Yeah, we've already raised a third of that money, and with your help, inshallah, we can pay off the rest.
So we're looking for people who can give $1,000 each. If you can be part of the select group, that's amazing.
Otherwise, just please give whatever you can. Every dollar counts.
It's our collective responsibility to share the message of Islam with our fellow human beings. Please help us continue this good work.
It's a sadaqah jariyah, something that will continue to be a benefit to the Muslim community long after Safiya and I are gone.
Please support our work at muslimmediahub.com.
Your support is zakat eligible and tax deductible.
May Allah bless you and your loved ones today and always. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum.